Hello and welcome to the Idaho Reports podcast. I'm Logan Finney. Joining me today is Melanie Folwell, who is a lead organizer and spokesperson with Idahoans United for Women and Families, a new group that is organizing to put a abortion-oriented ballot initiative on the 2026 general election ballot here in Idaho. Melanie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So your group has been in the news recently because you submitted 4 different draft initiatives to the Attorney General's office for legal review. But before we jump into that, I want you just to kind of introduce yourself and the organization you work for, and maybe give us a little bit of context for any folks in the audience who aren't familiar with the initiative so far.
Sure, thank you. So Idahoans United, we're a statewide, nonpartisan group, a coalition of all kinds of folks from all walks of life, everyday Idahoans, parents, grandparents, medical practitioners like doctors, small business owners, clergy, all kinds of people who represent the entire state. For about 2 years now, we have been coming together to talk about addressing Idaho's uniquely extreme trigger ban, which is a near total ban on abortion, and then a climate that really seems like it's going to increasingly threaten other aspects of reproductive rights and freedom, including maybe access to contraception and IVF. We have a legislature who, though many folks inside that building have voiced the need to fix aspects of our trigger ban of these laws, for 2 years, there's been total inaction on this issue. So our group has specifically decided to pursue another way you can make legislation in Idaho, which is by citizens ballot initiative. And our research would indicate that the citizens of Idaho are broadly with us on this issue.
Sure. This is something that you and your organization have not done just on a whim. Looking back at the research you guys were doing, that you guys were talking to folks about this back in 2022. This has been a pretty engaged process for you all, has it not?
It really has. We've done several rounds of polling at this juncture, and the earliest is the one you're referencing from 22, where even though we were just Idahoans were just freshly aware of the trigger ban and what that would mean here in Idaho, people were pretty clear that they were uncomfortable with private, sensitive medical decisions being made with politicians in the exam room, with lawyers in the exam room. People are pretty clear, Idahoans are clear, that they believe that women, that patients can make those decisions in consultation with their doctors, with their family members, even with faith, with clergy. I think that it speaks to kind of a uniquely Idaho orientation around don't tell me what to do, maybe our Western individualism, though the people that we survey are predominantly people of faith. They are clear that these laws are not compatible with their personal values and what the control that their families would like to have over their own futures and fortunes and destiny.
All right. Well, now let's get into actually the policy that you guys have been working on. As I referenced earlier at the top of the show, there are 4 drafts that you all have submitted to the Attorney General's office. Can you talk to me about what's in those policies and what you're actually proposing to make the law, what you're proposing in your attempt to make law here?
Absolutely. So over the last year, most intensively and in very, very close consultation with the doctors who are being impacted by Idaho's current laws, we developed policies. As is often the case with ballot initiatives, and you see this in other states a little bit here in Idaho, we have filed multiple versions just to keep our options as open as possible, just kind of best practices. So all our eggs are not in one basket, as it were. And what I would characterize the policies is that basically goes like this. There's one policy that is protections for life and health of the mother, also referred to as like the medical emergencies policy. The other 3 policies are all umbrella protections for a whole gamut of reproductive health care, from contraception, fertility treatments like IVF, postnatal care, prenatal care, all the way to abortion and the need to terminate pregnancies at different points. Those rights are protected, either restored or protected in these policies. And the policies are 20 weeks, 24 weeks, and viability.
And how did you pick those three thresholds there? 20 weeks, 24 weeks, or specifically the phrase fetal viability? What's kind of the logic there that you heard from the medical field?
Sure. The medical field, our North Star in all of this was consultation with doctors and people in the medical field. And the idea was we know the impacts of these laws. We have seen over the last 2 years a loss of 22% of Idaho's OBGYNs. Health systems are struggling. Women are being airlifted to neighboring states. Other states are reporting the strain that we are putting on their healthcare systems. It's not working. The current law is not working. It is a problem. We already did not have a wealth of physicians to begin with, and these laws have made that worse. So how do we fix that? How do we get out of this? And so we went to doctors and said, what will help you both, one, want to continue to practice medicine in Idaho, and two, what will attract new doctors to our state? What will give us a future here to know that we can predictably access healthcare if we live in Idaho, if we choose to have a family in Idaho? Unsurprisingly, a lot of doctors are married to other doctors. And when those 22% of OBGYNs left, they took other specialists with them, like oncologists and radiologists and heart doctors. We need a robust supply of doctors in our state, from your family physicians and general physicians all the way to your specialists. These laws are harming that supply. So what we heard from doctors was, we need language that can empower us to do what is best for our patients in consultation with our patients, understanding that every person is unique, every pregnancy is unique, every person's own journey along the full gamut of reproductive care is unique. We need laws that empower us to make those decisions without fear that we're going to go to jail, without fear that we're going to lose our license, without fear that we're going to be fined, without fear. And so that is what these policies really aim to deliver.
And something else that I noticed in these policies as well, there's kind of the three with the different time thresholds and the kind of what I'll call an umbrella policy of other reproductive issues, things like IVF, fertility treatments, protecting a right to those and to privacy around those. And then there's the more bare bones one, the one that is specifically just about abortion in those instances. Is the thinking there that tying an abortion right? I guess my question is, there's kind of two paths you could go down here. You could do a reproductive kind of broad initiative, or you could do something that is honed in more on abortion. Which of those two paths do you think is going to be more likely? As we're sitting in a period here where you're waiting to hear back from the Attorney General on these bills, but I'm not quite sure how to read kind of those two paths ahead of us. Can you kind of explain what the thinking is there?
I think the policy you're referring to is just the medical and health exceptions policy, like the very bare bones. That is only striving to address what has been talked about in the legislature the last two sessions, and that is Idaho is one of only 6 states that does not have an exception for the health of the mother. This would put that into law. And you're right, it is a bare bones policy. It is the bare minimum. And we've heard that from doctors too. That is the bare minimum of what they would need to continue to practice medicine. And it is likely not enough.
And I also noticed in that one, it says physical health, which is something I've heard some lawmakers are hesitant, and also kind of politicos within the Idaho Republican Party, they're hesitant to include health of the mother, not just life of the mother, because they say that could possibly be a loophole in their eyes where you could say all sorts of mental, emotional, sociological issues are health related and therefore could be used to subvert the law. But the initiative goes pretty out of its way, this bare bones version, to specifically say physical health having to do with organs and bodily function, right? Is that
Yeah,
an intentional way to kind of get at those concerns that the lawmakers have expressed?
those lawmakers certainly do have that concern. They do seem to take a very, very narrow view of the health value of a human woman. And that does seem unfortunate. And again, is limiting to the various ways that doctors need to be empowered to practice medicine. So to reiterate, yeah, that policy is a bare bones policy. That policy is the bare minimum.
So there's four different versions of this initiative sitting with the Attorney General's office. What are the next steps for you all as you are waiting to hear back and get the suggestions and edits and possible ballot titles from the AG?
So we're sitting waiting for, we're in that certificate of review period. So sometime in the next 15 days, we anticipate getting that back from the Attorney General's office, and then we'll have time to review and make any modifications that we deem necessary to our policies, and then we will refile, and then we will wait for titles. The granting of titles is a really big deal, as I'm sure those of us who have done work around initiatives here in Idaho, and we'll wait to see what the Attorney General has to say in regards to titles that appear on people's ballots. In the meantime, we have been really moved by the outpouring of enthusiasm we've seen since announcing the filing of those petitions. Deluge of people wanting to sign, and we have to tell them there's nothing to sign quite yet. We would anticipate that as we move through this bureaucratic process and then seek to advance a single policy, that we wouldn't have anything to circulate and sign until late November, December of this year. But people are ready, and people, the number of people who have said they want to volunteer, they want to carry the petition, people who have donated, it's really moving.
And where are those donations and volunteers and messages of support coming from? Are they from largely people within the state, from abortion rights groups nationally? Where are you hearing feedback from at this stage?
I'm very pleased to say that this is an Idaho solution, funded by Idahoans, staffed by Idahoans. Our volunteers are Idahoans. People are fired up, and I think hungry for, after these long 2 years without action on this issue from our legislature, they're ready to go. And so that's exciting. We have no funding from national groups like repro groups or national organizations. And we're doing this here in Idaho by Idahoans for Idahoans.
And this, to be clear again, is if your organization is able to collect enough signatures and those signatures are all verified, this would appear on the 2026 ballot. So that's, there's two possibly entire legislative sessions before then. And like we referenced, there's an election this November coming up before you guys would even begin collecting signatures. Is there any likelihood that things could change either at the state level or at a national level that could take the wind out of your sails and make all this work you've been doing for naught?
I will tell you that I would feel incredibly lucky and fortunate to have the wind taken out of my sails. I think that we should be so lucky. To be very clear, the Idaho legislature has the power at any time to both call themselves into session and make any law they see fit. And they have that power. They have that power as we sit here talking about this. So if they were able to provide immediate relief to the patients and women and doctors of this state, I would be thrilled. Everybody in our coalition would be thrilled. We would be thrilled. So I would welcome and embrace a legislative fix at any point.
All right. Well, Melanie Folwell, lead organizer and spokesperson with Idahoans United for Women and Families, thanks so much for speaking with us, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again as the slow wheels of the legal system continue to turn.
Thank you so much. Look forward to talking soon.
Celebrating 75 years of science and innovation, Idaho National Laboratory's 6,200 researchers and support staff are advancing the nation's nuclear research, renewable energy systems, and cybersecurity solutions. Presentation of Idaho Reports on Idaho Public Television is made possible through the generous support of the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho. by the Friends of Idaho Public Television and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.